Hey, welcome back everybody. Very happy to be here today. I hope everyone's doing very well. I had some fantastic questions in regard to Handy Gym, so I wanted to take care of those questions and give you some demonstrations on how we can generate force on this machine. There's a couple of different ways, and also how to catch the eccentric. So let's start with generating force. With Handy Gym, you have a couple of different options when it comes to your training. Unlike conventional weight systems, where you have to stay very strict and proper with your movements in order to prevent injury, Handy Gym allows you an amazing way of training. You can do your movements strict or not strict with very little to no chance of injury. The reason why is you're working off of a flywheel, okay? Handy Gym is not the standard, I'm lifting up a heavy weight and therefore I have to be careful the way I lift it. It is more of a freestyle way of training. When it comes to generating force, you can generate it in a very freestyle type of way or a very strict way, whatever you're more comfortable with. And it also depends on your main goal and your training style. When you do a strict movement with Handy Gym, you're gonna want to feel out the rep, okay? So when you lift it on the concentric phase, you're going to go ahead and allow the machine to bounce back, and after it bounces back, you have to kind of time your muscles' reaction to that bounce back. So imagine it like a yo-yo. If you go ahead and throw a yo-yo down, it's generating force and it's going to shoot back at you with a high amount of speed. But in order to come back at you with Handy Gym, you have to allow it to. So you're going to come up on the concentric, you're going to let it bounce back, and after it bounces back, you're going to allow the force to come completely down and catch it towards the end. The eccentric phase on this is extremely powerful, so user beware. Trust me, it is extremely powerful. You don't want to underestimate it, but it's also extremely short. So in an extremely short amount of time, you're receiving an extremely high amount of power. So your muscle is going to have to learn how to regulate that. Now you can do that in a strict fashion, or you can do that in a more of like a full body type of a fashion, or more of a compound type of a movement. So what I mean by compound is when you're, depending on the workout you're doing, you're working multiple muscles. That's whether you're on standard dumbbells, or if you're on a weight machine, or if you're on Handy Gym. You have compound movements and then you have isolated movements. You can do an isolated movement on Handy Gym, for example, a bicep curl. We could be doing a bicep curl, and you could be doing it very strict. You're bringing it up to your chest, you're letting it come back, you're bringing it up to your chest, you let it come back, and the whole time your back is in the right position and all that. You can do it like that, or you can go ahead and you can do more of a freestyle or more of a compound. You can go ahead and generate that force by using your full body on the concentric portion. Pull that thing down using your back, using your legs, using your stomach muscles. Pull that thing down to generate a ton of force, which will then come back at you. And when it comes back at you, you're targeting the energy onto the specific muscle that you want to focus on. So if you want to focus on your bicep, for example, you can go ahead and create force using other muscles, but when that force bounces back, like that yo-yo is going to bounce back, you're going to target that force on the muscle. It's going to take a little bit of effort on your part to learn how to do that, but once you learn it, you don't forget it. Keep in mind, it's extremely powerful. You don't want to underestimate this short phase. Very powerful. You don't want to get hurt. Make sure to warm up first before you use this machine. Just because this machine automatically regulates weight for you, which is an incredible thing, so you're not changing out plates all the time and stuff like that. Just because it does that, it doesn't mean that you can just use it however you want it and throw all caution to the wind. You want to make sure you're taking care of yourself. When it comes to catching the eccentric, again, this is going to take a little bit of work on your part. There's multiple ways that I teach people in my free class. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this channel or what I do, but if you purchase a Handy Gym, I give you a free class teaching you everything you need to know in order to get into using it. Because in the beginning, there is a little bit of confusion sometimes because the machine is unconventional. It's a flywheel machine, so many people are not used to that. So I give a free class in order to do this. But the point that I'm trying to get at is I have to work with a lot of different types of people. Everyone learns differently. So I have had to find different ways to explain and teach the same exact thing because every user is completely different. So one way that I don't know if I've mentioned on this channel in order to catch the eccentric would be to completely overload the eccentric. Now, I don't recommend completely overloading the eccentric phase all the time, but I do recommend it in the beginning for some users who may have trouble finding the eccentric. You have to literally search this eccentric phase out. I don't know if you guys know, but the eccentric phase is extremely important when it comes to endurance, muscle endurance, and when it also comes to strength training, when you want to build muscle. It's very, very important. Both phases, the concentric and eccentric, are important, but studies show, it's very controversial, but studies do show that the eccentric phase is the most important when you want to build muscle. So, not looking to argue, there's many people out there who will find different studies who say different things, but I can tell you from my training, the eccentric phase has been completely incredible, especially when you overload on that phase, okay? So, how do you catch the eccentric? Well, one way is to completely overload that phase. You're going to make sure that you have too much weight coming back at you from that machine. So you're going to go crazy, maybe a full body, you're giving all the force your body can give on that concentric phase, so that when the eccentric comes back, there is a ton of weight coming back at you, a ton of momentum, a ton of force coming back at you. Due to that extremely large amount of force, that unrealistic amount of force that you generally don't need, due to that, your body is going to have to catch it. It's going to be so amped up that when you feel it out, when your muscle goes to stop that force, your muscle is your body is very intuitive. It's going to be so overloaded on force that your body is going to know when it needs to stop, okay? Because you're going to feel, okay, I'm trying to stop it and it's not working, due to that unrealistic amount of force. I recommend starting with the yellow plates if you have the yellow. If you're not generating enough force on that, even while overloading on that force, you can go ahead and jump to the blue plates or even the red plates. But give that machine all that you can to generate an unrealistic, even maybe unusable amount of force, because this machine goes up to 220 pounds. Generate a crazy, ridiculous, unusable amount of force, and then try to stop it, okay? You're going to allow that machine to bounce back, give it a second or two, then try to stop it. It's at that point where you're going to see and feel that eccentric. And as soon as your muscle sees and feels that eccentric, your body is going to use muscle memory when it comes to your next rep. The more you use this machine, the better you get at using it. So I implore you guys, use it as much as possible to get better at it. The more you use it, the better it gets. I'm using this thing like, I think it's been 2 years now that I'm using this machine, and it only continues to get better. Every time I use it, I learn more about the machine. It's phenomenal. It's a beautiful, incredible, high quality piece of, and very versatile piece of mobile gym technology. You're talking about a full body gym. In the same respect, some people might not want to do a compound movement. In the example I just gave you, creating an unusable amount of force, you're going to be doing a compound movement. You're going to be using multiple muscles and then targeting that force onto another muscle. So, for example, I'm going to go ahead and pull that thing up. I'm going to be using my legs to pull it up. I'm going to be using my back to pull it up. But when it comes down, I'm going to let that force come back on my bicep. That's just an example, okay? You don't have to do it like that. You can go ahead and be strict with it too. You can be strict. So for example, if you want to focus on your bicep, again, I always focus on the bicep because it's the easiest movement to grasp. Once you grasp bicep on this machine, you then can move forward to other movements. But if you go ahead and do a bicep curl, I've shown you guys in the past, you could do a strict curl like this, but instead of just bringing it up like this with your right arm, if you're focusing your right bicep, you can go ahead and bring it up with both arms. And so you're doing it in a strict fashion. You're not deviating. You're not pulling this thing up, going crazy to generate force. You're bringing it up normally, but you're using your other arm to bring it up, and you're doubling up on that initial force. Because you've doubled up on that initial force, it's going to come back very, very hard. And that is going to allow you to be able to capture that eccentric phase, doing a strict movement, doing an isolated movement, not bringing other muscle groups into it. In both scenarios, whether you're trying to generate force or catch the force, you have compound ways of doing it, and then you have strict ways of doing it. What do I recommend? It completely comes down to you. I've trained people where they don't want to do compound movements, they've had bad experiences in the past, or maybe they have an injury, so they want to focus on an isolated muscle. Therefore, those people would be best to do what they're comfortable with. Don't do a compound movement. You do not have to do a compound movement. But the beauty about this machine is you can do compound movements in very unethical, unorthodox styles. You can swing this machine around to generate force. This machine can be used on any scale. You don't need to be strict with it. But if you want to be strict, you can be strict. There's ways of generating that force in a strict fashion, in an isolated fashion, without bringing other muscle groups into it. So you have a lot of options when it comes to this. Feel free to check out the website, guys, handygymdynamic.com. This is an incredible machine that will change the way you train. Whether you're at home or on the go, you can utilize this machine in order to be able to have a full body workout up to 220 pounds. Because of the way this works, you can overload on the eccentric. You can do just eccentric or just concentric movements. You have options here. You have both phases when you want them, or you can isolate them when and where you want them. It's really an incredible way to have a full body gym, especially in my opinion when you're on the go, when you're traveling. Let me know if this helps, and keep in mind, if you are interested in a free class, hit me up with a comment on YouTube. Hit me up over on Instagram. My Instagram is listed in the description. And if you do appreciate this content, please feel free to like and subscribe for more of this content. Ask any questions that you have. I get a lot of questions, and I don't mind doing videos in regards to those questions. Talk soon, be safe, catch you all at the next video.